Hey guys, Jeff here, and today we're in the basement of my forever build. We're tackling one of the most common problems in basement renovations, and that is what to do with the last step. The reality is when you're dealing with your building code issues here, every step, okay, this is the rise, has to be consistent on the staircase until it hits a landing. So when you add floor leveler or underlayment and new flooring, your building inspector is going to go like this. They're going to check, well, okay, right now I'm at 7 1/4. That one I'm at 7 1/2. That one I'm at 7 5/8. Boom, I failed. They only give you 1/4 of an inch variance on the steps. So I can't go from 7 1/4 to 7 5/8 on the same run, and I haven't even got my flooring in yet. So it's going to be a little less than 7 inches. The solution to this problem is really simple. You have to make the last step a landing. So what we want to do is build it out to 36 inches by 36 inches. So it's a big square box, so you have both feet making contact with that box. As soon as you do that, you're now stepping off a new staircase and has its own requirements, and since it's only one step, whatever that staircase is, I don't care if that step is 2 inches, you're fine. So as long as you make a landing, you're good. So right now I'm going to show you how to do that. And it involves a few tricks because we also have the stringer here that's in the way. And if we leave the stringer here, then we have to go 36 from the stringer. All right, and that can make the landing really huge, and if you don't have the space, that's an issue. For us, we don't have the space, so we're gonna actually modify the stringer. We're gonna bring in some new structural support. We're gonna frame this up. We're gonna show you all the tips and tricks. At the end of this video, we're gonna have a new landing ready to receive our hardwood steps. So my plan of attack is simple. I'm gonna leave the back here because I have a 36-inch stair. That's fine. And this is actually structural support carrying up the floor at the top of the stairs. I gotta have that. So what I'm looking to do is figure out, can I eliminate this, right? Now the stringer is no longer touching the ground. Like there's a hole here. We're gonna bring in a new block in behind. We're gonna fix this, carry that load, and then we will build our new box off from this point, okay? So then taking a look, if I'm 36 inches from there, plus drywall, so we're gonna go with 37-inch measurement because the 36 is after drywall consideration, okay? Make sure you get that right. So I'm gonna go 37 inches basically. This is where my wall is gonna be, boom, right there. So that gives me 40 inches on the landing, great. That gives me 44 inches in my hall. That ends up being 43. I like 40 as a minimum, so we're great. We now have a plan. It's time to execute said plan. One other thing I wanna do real quick is I wanna check my level, my little red line here, okay? I wanna check out over here. That's 9 1/4, 9 1/8, 9 1/4, 9 1/4. All right, it's really consistent. I'm almost perfectly level, and a little bit of an 1/8 of an inch of a dip on a huge platform. You're never going to notice it. Okay, so I'm actually looking at actual size. I'm 7 1/8 here. Everywhere else I'm 7 1/4. Okay, so we're going to work with that. We're going to be just fine because 7 1/4 sounds familiar. That's actually the dimension of a 2x8. So step number 1 is to cut ourselves a piece of lumber with this slope to go under this stair so that I can transfer the load from coming down to the floor here to coming down to the floor here. Tie it all together. We don't have an issue. I got Matt here helping me out today. 14-inch piece of lumber, Matt. I'm just gonna set this where I want it and then trace the backside. There's my line. There's the cut. This is all actually quite temporary. If you haven't seen it yet, we did the mother of all floor leveling videos, and we just threw this stuff in to create a dam. Awesome. Now, the bottom is already sealed pressure treated lumber. That'll work great. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, you know, I'm a big fan of having sill gasket underneath my wood. I'm gonna just staple that on. There we go, set that in place. Give it a little bit of love. There, now it's actually carrying the weight. Instead of just nailing this in, we're going to be using mending plates. We're going to throw in a galvanized nail. Remember, whenever you're dealing with pressure treated lumber, you want to use ACQ fasteners. So deck screws were great, structural screws, and galvanized nails. I'm gonna go with both plates in the same location because we're looking for the thickness of that steel. These plates, they come a little bit light duty. So we'll just stick this on here. That makes it nice and stable. Great. Now, next step is to remove all the extra, and for that, we need a Sawzall. I'm gonna try to do most of this cut from here if I can. I'm gonna use the side of the wood as a guide for my blade. That hollow sound, that's because I put that structural support in and I gave it a love tap. Easy way to fix that, that's right here, cedar shims, right? So we want to maybe put a little bit of support on that. There goes the hollow sound. Now it's gone. Now there's a lot of different products that we can come back with to refinish our stairs. Now that every single step on the stairs on both landings are going to be the same, and then this one will be modified off a landing so that it can be different, we can cover all the steps exactly the same. But what we can't do is refinish. So we can't just sand back the stain because the addition here is going to look really out of place and whack. And I can't just put a brand new surface on this all the way back to here because then this height has changed. And if this height and that height aren't the same, I fail inspection. So the only way that I can actually get a brand new plywood right back to here is to cap every single stair and the landing. And that creates trouble for me upstairs because I want to have hardwood upstairs. So if I'm adding 3/4 on the front door and I'm adding 3/4 material here and 3/4 upstairs and I add any plywood at all, I gotta put plywood on the entire surface upstairs in order to get everything consistent. And I'm just not prepared to do that. This is gonna be a great solution. Boom. And then boom. That kind of gives you an idea of the outline of this step, okay? Now for extra strength, I'm thinking of going like this. Okay, so everything that we're gonna do, in a perfect world, I'd put it on this material here. But I don't have a perfect world. I've got something that's exactly the size that I want. And if I add even that membrane, I'm gonna be too high. Now, it is perfectly acceptable in building technology to go pressure treated right on concrete, especially when you have such a dry basement like I do, okay? So, yes, I go overboard and I use the sill protection as much as possible. No, it's not absolutely necessary. And in this case, it makes no sense. I'm gonna create a whole lot of work for myself that I just don't need to do. We're gonna leave everything full material so that we can have our pressure treated contact with our underlayment. If we have any high spots at the end of the day, we can come back with the palm sander and just rub them down a little bit so the installation of our hardwood works perfect. Over here, for instance, I am maybe a 16th high, but I don't wanna get into fixing that right now. It's a lot easier to fix with a palm sander later. Now, we're gonna build out this side off of this step. Boom. I've got a high spot here. I got a high spot in the concrete. This was what I was hoping to avoid. But you know what? Even when you use floor leveler, it's not always perfectly level. In this area here, when we were doing the floor level application, we were filling out a big room, had to stop, leave a wet edge, and start there and meet out here. And by the time we met out here, this started to set up too much and we couldn't keep the edge wet long enough. So because of that, sill gasket and shims, I'm gonna start high and just use my finger to trace that out. So it's a little high here. And then I took off extra material, make room for the gasket. I can add shims. Yes, and we're low on both sides. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. So for this part, we're gonna go sill gasket. We have to cover up our exposed wood here. Now we got a frame. Now we gotta do is attach it. Just gonna take a few 2.5-inch screws, tack it all together. Let's see if we're square. Woo, Lord no. Okay. That is horrible. That did not help at all for getting square. Wow, that was atrocious. I have this gap against that wall and I think it's gonna be necessary for a reason. It's gonna come flush with the inside. I'll try that way. There we go, now we're talking. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so what I wanna do, I wanna throw in a couple of other supports. I'm gonna get my level out and double check what's going on here. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. So my box is completely level. My stairs have a bit of a slope to it, which means that when it comes time to put on the hardwood, I'll probably want to put in a little bit of feather patch on the back there just to level that out. And that's no big deal at all. Now guys, if you're watching this video and you haven't seen how we did the floor leveler, make sure you check out the video description for a link to that video, because that'll change your life. Old concrete is always dusty. As soon as you put in a floor leveler, you've got a dust-free environment you're working in. And if for no other reason, aside from filling all the dips and valleys, getting a dust-free environment at work is a really nice benefit. Okay, so I'm fine there. I've got a bit of a gap showing, and then I'm high here. I think what I'm gonna do, Matt, I'm gonna have you just rip like this. Again, taking a little bit more than needed. Okay. All right, so we got all of our blocks here now. 12 inch, 12 inch, 9 7/8. Make it 9 3/4 by the time we're said and done. Now we can add our framing nailing. All right, good. So the key here is to install this plywood flush with the top of this surface. Let's see, make sure that one fits. Yep, okay, here we go. Get a nice little thin piece of this. So this is my plywood thickness on a 2x4, made of a little jig. I can set the 2x4 on my base, reach underneath, and on an angle I can draw my line. There we go. There we go. Get the line on here for the 2x4 to follow. And then we are golden. There's my black line. Now you can use the same technique if you're in a wooden floor construction scenario in a bathroom where you want to put in a walk-in shower with a zero curb. So you can actually install all of your shower system like this. Now you see I feel like I'm a little bit high on the right side. So I'm going to take it out and do it again. And the secret to doing this is a new screw location, because it's just going to find the old hole and just make that adjustment. All right, now that is much better. Now we'll do that for the rest of this, and we're basically finished, ready to build the rest of our walls. So you double check the thickness right above your fastener, because it can still make an adjustment. Here we go. We'll push down right above my screw. Booyah. Let's just double check. Yeah, I don't want to have to force that in right at the moment. I want to just go and double check. She's going in. That's not going to be an issue. My only issue right now is that I don't have all this nailed up the way I want to. That is going to carry structure, and I don't want to just rely on a couple of deck screws. So that gives me 300 carrying on each one of those little 2x4s, which is plenty of force. Doesn't hurt to know that since we're going back with hardwood, it's going to be running the full board right into the step, right? The plywood is actually going to do a fair amount of work here. Now, because we went with 5/8, we're actually exceeded minimum building code because we're only a 12-inch center instead of 16. So this, like every other part of this house, is built better than code. Now I can feel free to hammer these in. Solid as a rock, that is. Now we got options. We can blow it in like this, but those nails go really deep, okay? And to be honest with you, I would rather use screws in a scenario like this. So I'm gonna be using deck screws. These are ACQ. They're good for pressure treated lumber. Okay, one screw every 6 to 8 inches. That'll just tighten everything down nice and tight. There is our landing. So now you have the power to level your floor, add subflooring, add a hybrid subflooring slash underlayment, like a Delta 1 Step 2.0. Now don't worry about this whole grandma's quilt look, okay? It doesn't matter. Hardwood will go down here tongue and groove with fasteners flawlessly. And like I said, make sure you're around to watch that hardwood installation video, and you'll see how we tackle all the imperfections that you're gonna find at your house. Cheers to the next time.